Hello and welcome to another episode of A Tonic for Lunacy. My name is Donna and I am your host. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what we usually do. I guess not. We typically go off topic quite a bit. Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, you know that over the past few weeks, I have been talking about the Kabbalah on my Instagram. I've just been exploring it for a little while, and I wanted to wait until I shared things with you all because I am in no way, shape, or form an expert in the Kabbalah. But I would like to share some of my findings. So let me backtrack a little bit. The summer has been wild and crazy. I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to run two high level programs at the same time while my kids were off from school. I don't know why. I think I do know why, right? Like I think it was partly let's grow the business. Let's see how far we can get it. I had the support. And then quickly I realized that that support was no longer supportive. So I removed the support and then it just kind of all fell on me. So trying to grow your business essentially by yourself. I did have a support coach, but it wasn't in the capacity of like an assistant. So trying to grow a business all by yourself is hard. It takes a toll. Being a single mom is hard. It takes a toll. The stress was mounting. And also the expectations were mounting, right? Like we have these expectations in the business to continuously 2x, 5x, 3x, whatever, just like increase our sales. And while that wasn't my intention was actually to stabilize. My intention was actually to just maintain. I found that even difficult just with like everything that was happening. The people that were in some of these programs, I was feeling like it was a clash in personalities. Maybe they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. Maybe I was being too harsh, maybe both. So what happened at the end of July, beginning of August, is that I was just depleted on all levels, like emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything. And what I recognized that I kind of did I kind of took a look right at the past few years and what felt the most stressful. And I think what felt the most stressful for me was that I am always doing things on my own, right? Like I'm always in my own little island doing everything for everyone. And this is something that I have worked on and that I continue to work on. But what I recognized is that it wasn't necessarily that I needed the support of other people, even though I do. It was that I didn't have a good foundation. I didn't have this deep belief that I was being taken care of, or that not everything was in my hands and that was okay, right? So the stress, the pressure, the anxiety, a lot of that comes from trying to control everything. And why do we try to control everything? Because we think we need to. So part of what I've been exploring over the past few months is how do I release some of that control? How do I surrender more? And what it came down to is that I don't trust that there is something bigger. I don't believe that there is something bigger out there in the universe, God, Jesus, creator, whatever. I didn't feel connected to any of it. I had lost my spirituality, my belief system. I was confused, and there was like a huge disconnect within me. Whereas I felt like doing all of this shadow work, potent, amazing, incredible, so beneficial. It was also keeping me in the dark. It was not allowing any light in. And I had also was beginning to lose my humanity. I wouldn't even say humanity, my spirituality, like my connection to something bigger and greater, and maybe even humanity too. And maybe you're starting to recognize this too. But now when I look at human design everywhere and I see how people are talking about it and how people are using it and how people are teaching it, I think that we've kind of forgotten. And I don't know that we've forgotten. I don't know that human design teaches us how to be in connection with others and how to be open to the light and how to not be so focused on me all the time. Like I found that I was just being, all of this work that we do is about us and how can we correct ourselves and how can we decondition and how can we do this and how can we do that. And at some point it just became for me like a dark den of how am I fucking up? What's wrong with me? How do I fix me? How do I get all the things that I want? Right. So like the people that come to me are like, I want a loving relationship, but like, I don't want to do any of the work. I want to make more money, but I don't want to like start my own business. That sounds hard. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do that. But they don't want to do the work, right? Like they don't want to do what it takes. And it just all becomes about me. What can I get? What can I get? What can I get? And I found that to be really potent in some of my groups. And at the time, I felt like there was a disconnect and I didn't really understand it. Now, what we know is that everything is always a mirror. So what I started to explore is how am I behaving in that way too, that I'm calling in these people, right? That these people are responding to me in this way. So how is this a trait that we both carry, which is why it triggers me? This is an important piece because I felt disconnected. I felt like something was wrong. So I decided to cancel HDSS, the new one that we were supposed to start next month, because I needed space. So HDSS, the first round was over. HDST round 5, Mastermind was over. All I had was HDST round 6. And they are those girls, women, ladies are just such a gift from God. I swear to God, they are so good. So it didn't really feel like I had to give and give and give and give like some of the other programs did. Because no matter how much I gave, it wasn't enough. And that part was hard for me. It was hard. So I just took some time, right? Like I took some time. I said, I'm taking August off. I am just doing HDST round 6. I'm just taking some space. And what happened in that space is that I started to just naturally, I mean, this is my line, my 1-3, right? I started to just naturally explore different things. And something that has been calling me for so long, and I've been in and out of studying it, is the Kabbalah. So, fun fact, my very first coach, which was probably at least 10 years ago at this point, was huge in the Kabbalah, into Kabbalah. And he had given me all kinds of meditations that I did around the Kabbalah. He had given me books around the Kabbalah. He had done all of these different things. We together had studied it. Like I felt like I understood it, but his perspective of it is a little different than the one that I'm doing right now. So it found me. It knocked on my door over and over and over and over again. Both my parents had brought it up to me at different times over the last few months. It found me in commercials, in people talking, through hair products, Like it just found me. And I was like, you know what? I remember exactly where I was. I was driving, which is so funny because that's how I found human design too, like driving. I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is the next thing. I need to explore this. And just kind of jumping into it because I'm Jewish, because I'm Israeli, it spoke to me in a different way. And while I'm not religious, it felt like it was the missing piece. And I was like, this is great because human design is also based on Kabbalah. Like, this makes sense. We're going to make sense of it. And what I quickly found was disappointing, honestly, is that human design is not really based on the Kabbalah at all. Not only is it I can find the connections, and I'm going to be making the connections because I find the human design language and how it can pinpoint things for us to be super beneficial. So obviously I'm going to be making the connection, but the way that Ra received it, I don't believe that there is an actual connection. So that sort of left a bad taste in my mouth. So then I took some time away from human design because I was like, I need a minute. Like, is everything that Ra said wrong? Like, why did he connect human design to the Kabbalah? Is that really what the voice said? And what is the connection? So if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen right now because this is just about the only connection that I have found between human design and the Kabbalah. This is the body graph here on the left, and this is the Kabbalah tree of life on the right. So you can see that if I were to flip the body graph upside down, they are similar in the way that they look. Excuse me. The tree of life has 10 of these sphirot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whereas the body graph has 9 centers. They are not related. They are not related. There's no correlation. I know the centers are technically supposed to be the chakra system. Great, beautiful, whatever. What I've heard is that the pathways, the 32 paths to wisdom of the Kabbalah tree of life are supposed to be related to the channels, to the circuits. I have found no relation exploring these. Now, again, right, like I'm no expert, and there's further research that I need to do in here, and you better believe I'm going to do it. So this is just part 1 of the Kabbalah. But I found no relation whatsoever. And it really disappointed me because I kind of felt like, and maybe this is the cynicism of my line 3, but I kind of felt like Ra used the Kabbalah tree of life in the body graph just to make it recognizable, and then sort of said it's based off the Kabbalah. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Not only is it not, I feel like the spirituality, the way of living, the way of being, the way of achieving ascension that the Kabbalah gives you is not even close to what is in human design. Human design, I feel like, useful, right? Like I'm still using human design because I think that we can bridge the gap here. I really think that we can. But what I have found human design to be is to create a lot of really selfish beings. And that's where I found myself, where I felt like I was in this selfish place of, I want this. Why is this happening to me? Why me? I'm sharing, I'm doing this, I'm following my strategy, I'm blah, blah, blah. Right? Me. We talk about how I'm being conditioned, what my shadows are. And we started to talk a little bit in HDST about how we condition others as well. But it proved me wrong, right? Like, DM me on Instagram and be like, no, here in human design, we talk about how to be a good person. But like, where in human design do we talk about morality or ethics or, and not, I'm not saying that the Kabbalah is about that at all, but how do we be better, right? How do we create better? So I found that to be a little bit disappointing, if I'm being honest, because I really wanted there to be a perfect connection. Like I wanted what the voice or Ra said about the tree of life being, or about the Kabbalah being in human design to be correct, because now that brings up doubt for me with other things in the body graph, right? But that's a story for another time. I definitely want to do more research. So I'm going to come back with another part that is just going to be body graph Kabbalah. Okay, let's go into the Kabbalah real quick. Okay, so what is the Kabbalah? I'm going to read to you. I'm going to read you a little quote. All right. It was once thought that the study of Kabbalah could drive people to madness. It was also thought that it could be religion, right? That it is part of a religion. But actually, although religion has although Judaism is in the Kabbalah because it's based off of Jewish mysticism, it's not necessarily about being Jewish. It's not any religion. It's wisdom. It's an antidote for chaos. Kabbalah is the science of the soul, the physics and metaphysics of fulfillment. But because it was practical, innovative wisdom that appeared on the scene thousands of years before its time, it was branded by misunderstanding. So the prophet Abraham first, who brought the book of creation, the book of formation, the Zohar, which is the Kabbalah book, was said to have been written based off of Abraham's book, the book of creation, formation, whatever you want to call it. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That's a quote by Arthur C. Clarke. And that's basically what the Kabbalah is. It's like white magic. It's mysticism. It's spirituality. What I have found to be true about it is that it is a breath of fresh air. It is full of tools to help us live balanced lives that make sense. It gives us that grounding, that foundation, that energy that we're looking for, that we've been going about taking in the wrong way. So it helps us connect to something bigger than ourselves, which is what I think we are missing in human design. That connection to something that is bigger than ourselves, that is greater, right? That is human design shadow is about the shadows. And I created it so that we could dive into the shadows and figure out what's in our subconscious mind. But I think through creating human design shadow, I've also shut out the light. And I don't, I say this like I'm admitting, right? Like that I created something that is powerful and so good and so innovative and so magical and has helped so many people. But without the proper foundation in spirituality, mysticism, even religion, it's so easy to get stuck in that darkness. And that's what has happened to me. And so the Kabbalah has really helped me find a way out. So, okay, I blah, 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 enough. I have some notes that I wrote down. You guys know I never do podcasts with notes, but I wanted to make sure that I talked about some important things. And I did also get a question on Instagram, so I wanted to talk about that as well. Okay, so the Kabbalah talks about a few really important things. So one of those things is what the Kabbalah calls tikkun. So there's a lot of backstory. And again, I'm going to do multiple parts of this because I really want to do it justice in explaining it. But before we talk about Big Bang, before we talk about the creation, before we talk about how souls were created, why we do this, why we do that, the spiritual mystical reasons, I want to just talk about some practical aspects and how I'm making the connection from this to human design shadow, because I think that it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really, really useful and helpful. So the Kabbalah talks about something called tikkun. So tikkun means correction. In Hebrew, letaken means to fix something, to correct something. We all come into this lifetime with tikkun, with things that we are meant to correct, with things that we are meant to fix, to change. Now, you can think about this as your trauma. You can think about this as generational wounds. You can think about this as your past life karma. You can think about this however you want. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we have these lessons that we are meant to transcend here. And the lessons that we receive will continue to repeat themselves over and over again. So we are here to transform our tikkun, to fix to pass our tests, to transcend past our lessons. The Kabbalah believes this is why we're here, right? This is what we're here for. Why? Because once we correct our lessons, we are able to accept more light into our lives, and we can start to become one with the light, with the creator, right? So we carry our tikkun from life to life. So what we didn't heal in the past, is going to continue to carry on. So you can look at that in terms of generation. You can look at your design for that. Our tikkun is also going to be in the places that we have taken on conditionings. So think about your openness, right? Or your bridges. These are places where we are going to experience lessons. So if you think about what Ross said about the openness in our body graph, is where we go to school. These are the lessons that we're meant to learn. Now, what I have done with Human Design Shadow is help you understand your fight or flight responses, your trauma responses that are in your openness, right? And this is so important. This is so important. And I obviously didn't know, but we have Human Design that teaches us, we go to school in our openness. We have Human Design Shadow that teaches us that our trauma responses are going to be in our openness. And then we have the Kabbalah that says your trauma responses are going to be all of the ways that you are reactive. And when you are reactive, you are not accepting light, right? You are not with the creator. You are not your best self. You cannot fix any of your tikkuns. You cannot pass any of your lessons unless you are not being reactive. That's what it's all about, right? If you were to sum it all up, I mean, there's so much, right? But if I were to sum it all up and make it super practical, what are the things that we need to work on? It's about not being reactive. And all of our tikkuns, all of our corrections have to do with our reactiveness. Our tikkun is going to dictate how we get reactive: fight, flight, freeze. These are the comfortable ways that we have created in order to connect to instant gratification. This is how we get energy from other people, places, and things, so we don't have to deal with our own process. So this is something like, oh, I get in an argument with someone, or like something happens in my life. Reactively, I'm going to call and text every single person that I have ever met in my life. It's reactive, and it's just blah, 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 right? It's just revving the drama, revving and revving and revving and putting a spark to the fire. I get in and, the kids are doing something they're not supposed to be doing. The first thing I do is I yell, right? That's fight. That's a reactive response. You get into an argument with your boyfriend, and maybe you have the undefined solar plexus. The first thing you do is run. Reactive. So what the Kabbalah teaches us is to pause. That's the first step in order to heal, to change, to correct the reactive lessons in our lives. Now, what I think that the Human Design really misses the point with is how we connect to other people, how my reactiveness affects other people. So I pause, I connect to the light, whatever you want to call it. If that feels too religious, don't call it anything. I connect to the light. What a pleasure is what Kabbalah tells you. What a pleasure to have this experience that I get to fix, to correct my tikkun, that I get to correct my lessons, right? My reactivity. And then how can I connect to this person on a different level that is not going to be reactive? It's not going to be from my trauma. We are no longer going to ping pong trauma or to ping pong trauma responses. Now I'm connecting in a different way. And now the way that I am going to communicate with you is going to be from a place that is not reactive. It's not based on my woundings, right? It's based on the light. It's based on good energy. It's based off of not me having to take energy from you in this fight, in this argument, but based on what can I give you in this as well. Okay. Now, how do we go from our openness to our definition? So the Kabbalah essentially teaches that all of our blessings, all of our gifts, all of our good energy, our light, our blah, blah, blahs are something that we need to earn. They aren't just given to us, right? So think about what happens if you give someone a reading with you for free. and they don't appreciate it if they even show up at all. But they either don't appreciate it, they don't find it, they're not going to find the value in it because they didn't have to earn it. They didn't have to do anything for it. It was just there. It was just free. Think about like teenagers whose parents are millionaires and they get whatever they want. Why do some of them get so heavy into drugs and crime and all of this other bullshit? Is it because they're bored, or is it because they didn't have to earn it? They didn't have to earn what they were receiving. So what the Kabbalah calls this bread of shame. And it's essentially, bread comes like from biblical terms of bread is our sustenance. So bread of shame is like, I didn't have to earn this. So I can see this playing out in my business in so many different ways, where I overgave and overgave and overgave, and people still complained, and people were still like, this isn't enough. I want this. I want this. But I didn't screenshot the things that I needed to screenshot, and now they're gone. So I need you to give them to me. And I'm like, so think about in your life, where have you given or received bread of shame, which is essentially taking something that you didn't earn. So a lot of us have a hard time with creating businesses that are completely passive. And what I'm starting to recognize is that why that feels hard and ick at some points is because it feels like it wasn't earned. It feels like I didn't earn it for some reason. Now, all of that and what gets rolled up into earning, or it's not even deserving, it's not even, your value, it's just what rolls up into earning. What means earning for you is going to depend on a lot of different things. But the Kabbalah believes that we have to earn the things that we receive. So how do we earn? We restrict, right? We instead of being reactive, we're proactive. We give instead of take. We heal our openness. We heal our reactive behaviors. Those are different ways that we can earn our blessings. And earn your blessings is like the good things that come into your life, you're able to accept them. You're able to accept them. So every time we choose fight, flight, reactive behavior, we're essentially disconnecting from the light. We're disconnecting from the creator. Now, what is the creator? It can mean God, it can mean Jesus, it can mean the Lord, whatever you want it to mean. It's essentially an endless stream of energy that just doesn't change. It's stable. Now, this is quantum physics too, right? It doesn't have to be any kind of religious God. This is the quantum field. There's so much science behind the Kabbalah. It really is amazing. So what happens is we plug into that light stream. Now, if I'm reactive and I'm angry or yelling because that is my reactive state, I am plugging into the light, but it's instant gratification and it short circuits. So I receive that energy in the form of, I get to be angry, I'm justified in my anger, whatever it is, but it's short-lived. So it's plugging into the light incorrectly or not plugging in at all. Now, there are so many different elements that go into the Kabbalah. And again, I am in no way an expert. I've gone through, I don't know, probably like 20 or 30 hours worth of studying. It feels like, I can't even tell you, like some of these feelings that I've been having over years and years make sense now. Or like the reasons why I wasn't able to work through some things make sense now. It's a process for sure. But what the Kabbalah really teaches is that we can connect to the light. And I don't need to be reactive. I don't need to be controlling of other people or of my circumstances or of my environment, because it's not really up to me at all, right? Like there's certain things I can do, yes, but we have certainty that it's all happening for us. So, like there's so much, and I could go on and on and on, and I plan on it. So I'm already starting to weave this into human design shadow and how we can use human design shadow to find out what our true lessons are, what the tikkun is in our lives based on our body graph, and how we can heal that quickly and effectively. And that's going to be based on human design shadow as well. Of course, you don't need it, but it is helpful. So I am going to start to weave the Kabbalah into human design shadow, even though human design, the system, may not be built off of the Kabbalah in the ways that I want it to. I'm going to bridge that gap. So I'm doing that first in the human design shadow training that is starting October 7th. I don't know if this is going to be the last time that I run it this way. I don't know, because things are just like constantly changing for me as I dive deeper and deeper into this work. And I really want to give this work my literal everything. So I don't know if this is the last time I'll be doing HDST this way, but something new is coming in January. It's not going to be high touch like HDST. I'm not going to teach you how to do shadow readings or how to even, incorporate the Kabbalah into your business like I will in HDST. So HDST, I really encourage you to join. We start October 7th. If you have questions, let me know. This is just part one. There's so many other pieces of the Kabbalah that I want to go into. I want to explore the tree of life with you. I want to explore the creation of the world, the creation of souls, past lives, future lives, reincarnation. Like there's so many different elements that I've been really, really enjoying that I want to do with you as well. I just want to check real quick a question that I received. Okay. Yeah, so somebody asked about deconditioning. She said, would the deconditioning of our definition be considered the tikkun correction? So I think that it is more based on our openness. I think it's based on our openness because this is where we are bound to be more reactive. With that being said, we can always be in the dysfunctional energy of our definition as well. So there are pieces there as well. So like I can say that my avoidance, my flight, my immediate reaction to fly and leave the conversation is definitely from my undefined solar plexus. But some pride that we all deal with could also be from my defined ego, right? The pride that we feel when we are even when we think we're better than people. So that can come from that as well. I'm more looking right now, I'm diving into the astrology. Kabbalistic astrology is a little bit different because it's based off of the moon rather than the sun. I'm not there. I'm not ready to explain all that yet, but I will get there. Okay, I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, please ask, because I would love to be in conversation with you all about this. Again, I'm no expert. I'm just sharing what I have learned so far. And I look forward to seeing you in HDST. I will pop a link. Alrighty, bye-bye.